What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to part 3 of our Deep Desert Base series. In part 1, we talked about the preparations you need to make in order to get ready to build a base out in the deep desert. And then in part 2, we actually came out here and we built one. So now in part 3, we're going to talk about operations, what you want to do once your base is up and running, what materials you want to go after, how to get them, and also give you an idea and a path forward as to what you want to do from here on out. So let's get going. I want to take some time here real quick just to point something out. If you've been following along and you remember the base that we built in part 2, I've actually had stuff I had to do in the deep desert this week, so I built what I call my combo base, which I can make a spice or plastanium regardless. And you'll see here, if you remember what the base looked like in part 2, you can still kind of see it here. I've expanded some areas, we added on some extra things, but it's still the same kind of basic layout that I used for that initial base. So, I am practicing what I'm preaching here, but it just goes to show you that come up with a design that you can embellish on and let it grow with you. You should have been getting some spice and some plastanium by now. As far as spice goes, because I'm not really going to cover the plastanium, it's pretty much the same thing as what you've been doing in Haga. But for spice, I'll throw on a best still suit I have. I've also got some soft step boots, which keep me from aggroing worms as much. And we're just going to head out over the wall and out into the dangerous deep desert. Now this might be your first trip out here, might have come out here quite often. But you're basically just going to do the same thing you do in Haga. I would advise you to stay in the PvE section as long as that little bar up top is gold or yellow. Then you're going to be safe. And we're literally just flying around and looking for spice blooms. There's kind of an unwritten hierarchy as far as spice goes out in the deep desert. We're small fish at this point, right? And we're just going to fly around and we're going to take a look and we're going to see if we can find some small blooms. The bigger groups and the carriers and all that, they normally aren't going to mess around with one of these. It's just not time sensible for them. They can go after the bigger places, which leaves these little ones open for us. Very nice. Always remember, land on a slope sideways so the thing doesn't slide down. But we're going to put our compactor, whichever one you can use, put our best compactor on. Now in this footage I'd already done some mischief, so I had quite a few weird things in here from a crashed ship. What I did there was just transferred over some spice that was in there, some spice sand, and now we're just going to compact like we normally do. Some people say that the worms out here in the deep desert don't aggro quite as often. That might be true. It might just be people's perception of it. I tend not to aggro worms when I'm out here, especially on a small field, but I also try not to do it when I'm in Haga as well, and the soft step boots really help. But just go out, find as many small fields as you can, and refine that back at your base, and you're good to go. And once we've gathered enough materials, we're going to head to the construction tab in our research, and we're going to look at all these wonderful Plastanium products. And there's so many different things here. Eventually you're going to want to make them all. But for right now, the piece that we want to focus on directly, that's going to help us out the most, is going to be the medium spice refinery. So up till now, you've been existing on what the small spice refinery can output in Haga Basin. And to be honest, that's probably been getting you by. There isn't too much of a need for spice melange in the early days. But now we're getting into the big leagues and we're going to need a whole lot more. The small spice refinery can make 1 spice melange for every 100 spice sand. And you figure you're getting about, 500 to 600, depending on your skills and your equipment, in the small fields that you find out in Haga. And like I said, that up until now has been enough to get you by, and you've been doing pretty good with it. We're going to need a lot more as things progress, so this 100 spice sand equals 1 melange isn't going to quite cut it. By building the medium spice refinery, each batch is going to make 10 melange, but it's only going to require 750 spice sand. Now that may not seem like so much. I mean, it's only 250 less, but over time, this is going to compound. Basically, you're able to make 4 batches of sand or of a melange from the same amount of sand that would normally get you 3. So we've stepped up our production and our output really well. It is an expensive piece of equipment, though. As you see here, you're going to have to get 285 Plastanium ingots. You're going to need 135 spice melange, so that's 135 batches out of a small. Complex machinery, cobalt paste, silicone, those things, you get them in Haga, so you should probably have a good amount of those. But it's also important to remember that out in the deep desert, when you build something, it's half the requirement. So instead of 285 Plastanium ingots, we've only got to have 143. And the same thing goes all the way down the line with the spice, the machinery, cobalt paste, silicone blocks. So it's a lot cheaper to make, and we'll be able to get one out here. Most of these tier 6 machines, you're going to find that you'll be able to build them out in the deep desert before you can get them back at your own Haga base. Strictly because of this half cost requirement that you see when you're out here in the deep desert. The end goal is, of course, going to be to build them in your own Haga base back home so that you have access to them no matter what. But get kind of used to that process, to where you're going to build a machine out in the deep desert so that you can refine the resources to eventually make that same machine back at home as well. This is also a great time to point out that whenever you build a new piece of machinery, make sure that you have 2 things. Number 1, that you have enough excess power to run it, and you have the ability to produce more water because now you've got something else running. You may have to add an additional turbine up on the roof or some extra generators, maybe another wind trap, but just keep track of how much power and how much water you're generating versus how much you're using. Once we've got our medium spice refinery up and running, I'm going to give you a little shopping list as far as what we're going to do next. First off, you're going to want to collect 185 Plastanium ingots. Next, you're going to want to do 104 spice melange. That's basically 11 batches out of your new machine. We're going to need 142 cobalt paste, so back to Haga Rift we go. You're also going to need 90 silicone blocks. If you don't have them, you can get them out here in the deep desert, process them in your medium refinery. 54 particle capacitors. You could find those in those little hidden caves. 50 complex machinery. It's not too difficult. You can find it out here in the deep desert on occasion. The next thing is 25 industrial pumps, which might be kind of a new concept. But don't worry, I'm going to help you out with that. And finally, the last 2 things I want you to collect are 15 thermoelectric coolers and 13 thermo-responsive array amplifiers. Now, those last 2 are probably new materials to you. They're only available out here in the deep desert. But, like I said, I'm going to help you out with industrial pumps, and I'm going to definitely help you out with these 2 as well. It's not as hard or as bad as you think to collect these items. So we're going to go through at least those last 3 to help give you an idea of where you're going, and all these items are going to lead us to the next piece of machinery that we're going to build out here in the deep desert. So for industrial pumps, we got to head to Sentinel City. That's back in Haga Basin. You can recognize it by the giant Godzilla mountain stone thing. Head on in there and dispatch with some fireflies. And the small chests that you see lying around all over the place usually have some industrial pumps in them. Not all of them, but most of them do. So a couple runs through there and you'll get the 25 that you need. If you'd rather get your pumps without getting blood on your hands, and you got a decent amount of Solari in the bank, you can head to the Crossroads trading post, where you're going to try to find Miss Zoe, one of our favorite traders. And if you look at the items she has and scroll all the way down, eventually you're going to see that she sells 15 pumps. Usually cost about 2,500 Solari each, so it can be pricey, but it is another way to get them. The next thing on our list are the thermoelectric coolers. We need 15 of them. And out here in the deep desert, I've gone to this so many times, I know exactly where it is based off of my base, but you'll see that little microfiber curtain that's hiding a cave. So we're going to switch into a set of armor, put on our shield. We're in the good section, so we don't have to worry about worms. We're going to cut our way through here. Now these guys are a lot tougher than what you've faced in Haga Basin. I've got some decent equipment and some upgrades, so it's not too hard for me to handle these guys. But if you don't have the super awesome high level equipment, you're just going to want to deal with them the same way you deal with any other bad guys when you're transitioning from one level to the other. Just kite them, separate them. There's only going to be one or two inside of here in each one of these caves, and there'll be a little box or a little chest that when you open it up will have some thermocoolers in it. I'm also going to pick up these bodies because this is a great way to keep your death stills running if you have them. These guys will respawn I don't know, every like 15 minutes or so. So you can farm these as much as you want. Just basically when you remember, be like, oh yeah, let me go get some guys. There's some medical supplies up there, and you can cut the other curtain down if you need some of those microfibers. Now we're going to stop off at the ornithopter here. I'm going to drop these bodies off because they're pretty heavy, and we'll move that just to make ourselves feel better. And then we're going to head over here because I know there is another cave just across the sand here. Same concept. We're going to cut in, and it could be one or two guys. There's only one here, so we'll get rid of him. He must have been hurt already. And there's nobody else, so we'll take the gun parts, and yeah, we'll take that. And here's more thermocoolers. You can take the other stuff if you need it. I don't at this point, so I just leave it. And there's a second chest in this cave with even more. So we got a total of 6 coolers in just a very short amount of time. We're almost halfway to the requirement. And these caves are all over the place in the first section of the deep desert. And finally, we have the thermo-responsive array amplifiers. A very common way to get these is in the testing stations and the crash ships out here in the deep desert, but the testing stations can be very difficult, and the crash ships are PvP zones. So what we're going to do is we are going to scan the desert for buried treasure using a scanner on our ornithopter. Now you'll notice that I'm in the PvP zone at this point. I couldn't find any buried treasures in the early PvP or PvE sections, so we ended up crossing this border. Now we're still in E sector, so if we did see people, we could be on our way real quick and into safe areas. So it is a little bit dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as a testing station would be. So we're going to hop out of here. We're going to run around. We got stuck. And we're going to head over here, and we're going to fire this, and then we're going to check the skies, because we're looking for bad guys, just in case somebody's playing around. And inside of this, you're going to have quite a few Tier 6 materials that are going to come in very handy in later builds when you're building weapons and equipment. Hit the button too much. But unfortunately, there were no amplifiers in there. So we're going to get to the air, scan, and these things usually come in clusters. So once you find one, there's probably several more around. We're going to go ahead, we'll fire off our compactor, and again, we're checking the skies, making sure there's nobody here. That thing's going to pop up out of the sand on its own. You don't have to watch it. If you're a hockey fan like I am, it's called looking at your pass. Don't want to get caught looking at your pass. So we're going to go ahead, take what we need. And we still didn't get any amplifiers, so we continue. And we're keeping an eye out. There's a couple over here. I don't normally like going into these little valleys because it cuts off my vision, so if somebody were to sneak up on me, they'd be on top of me before I would know. But you got to do what you got to do. We're going to hit this one, and again, we're checking the skies. Looks clear. Nobody coming. And in this one, we finally got what we needed. I don't know if you see it there, but once we get into the ornithopter, we'll check our inventory. You're not safe out in the sand, but inside your vehicle, you've got some durability. Let's look at the inventory here. And in that one cache, we got 11 of these ray amplifiers. So that did almost all the work for us. Why do we need this stuff? When we get back to our base with all the things on the list, we're going to build our next piece of equipment, which, believe it or not, is an advanced vehicle fabricator. We're not going to keep this, and you don't want to build too many things in here, but this is going to help us increase our productivity 3 to 4 times what we're capable of doing right now. We're going to build it in the deep desert, so you see those total numbers are quite small compared to what it's going to be when we finally do build it over in Haga. And there's another thing once you get it built that you're going to research. And you're going to head over to the vehicle section in your research, scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're looking at this. This is the Mark 6 cutter that goes on your buggy. Now, buggy chassis and accessories don't have to match. Your storage center, your thrusters, rockets, and cutter rays are considered accessories. They don't have to match the chassis. So if you have a Mark 5 buggy, you can put this cutter on top of it. And we're going to make use of that by attaching this to our buggy. Once we disassemble it in Haga and fly it out here, reassemble it at our deep desert base, put this cutter on top of it. And now that I've switched over to the actual stats, you'll see that we're going to be pulling 90 titanium and strontium with each node that we mine with the buggy, which is way, way, way more than you're going to get with a handheld cutter. Plus, you're going to have a decent amount of storage space versus what you have with, say, a Scout Ornithopter. It's kind of on par now with what's in the Assault. But just the fact that each node is going to give you so much more is well worth it. Here's a quick example. Keep in mind I've got some bonus stats and some skill bases that are increasing my totals here. But with my handheld, I'm able to get 51 titanium from a node plus what I picked up on the ground. When I come over here with my buggy, strontium and titanium are going to be the same thing. As you can see here, I pulled 180 from that same size node. Over here, there's actually 2 titanium nodes, so I'm going to just drive over here real quick, and you're going to see the numbers are going to be the same as well. Keep in mind, like I said, I've got a Mark 6 buggy with the improved cutter ray, so it's a little different. But I'm pulling 197 here and an additional 197 there from a node that normally is only going to give me about 50. So that is huge. It's roughly 4 times the amount. Once you've built that cutter ray, you're going to demolish this because we don't need it anymore, and you're going to get 100% of those materials back as a refund when you demolish it. Those materials you're going to use to build whatever you want to build next. The most common choice is a large ore refinery. Since we're bringing in so much more ore and we need so many plastanium ingots, being able to make them faster and more efficient is huge. Right now, you're probably using 6 titanium and 1 strontium fiber for an ingot. It'll be down to 4 titanium and 1 strontium in order to make an ingot. Over time, that's a huge improvement. So the large ore refinery is definitely on the list of things you want to make. Again, you're going to make it out in the deep desert because the production costs are so low. And also, by destroying that vehicle fabricator that we didn't need, we're already on our way to getting this thing made. You don't have to make the large ore refinery. From here on out, it's pretty much a choice. I'm not going to fault you if you want to do the advanced survival fabricator first. It's a lot cheaper, and in fact, you might have all the things you need already just by tearing down the vehicle fabricator. Here you can make a better compactor, a better handheld cutter ray. You can also make better filters for your machines. So there's a lot of advantages to building an advanced survival fabricator before you do the ore. But honestly, it's a complete choice, whatever you want to do. Medium storage is also a good thing to look into because we're bringing in more materials and we're using more materials. Having the extra space per box is definitely worth it. You can actually get more per floor tile with smaller containers, but whatever you want to do from this point. Well, that's going to be the end of this, guys. I hope this helps. Give you a little pointers, tell you what to do, and we've got part 4 coming up here pretty soon. and keep an eye out for it. As always, I'll see you out there. Take care.